Okay guys, sorry for the wait. I was just taking care of a couple things, but that's good. You guys needed a break anyways if you've been sticking through, watching this whole thing with me. Good for you. Smash up the likes if you've been watching the whole thing. Smash up the down dislike if you feel you don't have time for this and it's boring and it's not useful to you. So also comment down below and let us know what you think, what's going to come out of this. Is anything going to change? Whether it be ICOs are going to change more, cryptocurrency exchanges. What do you think this is going to change? And do you think it's going to affect the rest of the world or just the United States? And we're going to get right into this video in a second here. Donald Trump coin was pumping at one point there. And this is one thing that they touched on, pumps and dumps, in part 2, if you want to look into that. I just wish there was a guy in the background with a buy Bitcoin sign. So there's a couple people here we'll look into after when we do our after video, kind of reviewing this whole hearing. Might do that tomorrow. But Toronto has a totally different approach where they're in Canada, where we're embracing cryptocurrencies over here. So if this is affecting you in any way, might be worth coming over here. Give me a shout if you end up in near Toronto. We'll be doing Bitcoin meetups and things like that. And they're going to have more after this. I think they're going to have more ability to interfere. They're trying to convince lawmakers and regulators why they should interfere and why they should have control over this decentralized world. One thing is for sure, they do not deny that blockchain is here to stay and that it can be used for making many industries more efficient. So let's go and look into our final and last part, part 4. Just let me find it here. Here we go.
At this point is not.
I think we're around here somewhere.
Without fully understanding the rest.
Senator, I'm not going to comment on a specific instance, but some time ago, we put out an alert that said, if you are promoting securities, you're taking on securities law liability. I believe that has tamped down some of this endorsement activity. I will say it again right here. If you are promoting securities, you're potentially taking on securities law liability.
Well, let me ask you, I appreciate that, and I hope that you will think about doing more to protect consumers. Can you walk us through why the SEC at this point is not comfortable with approving ETFs with significant investments in cryptocurrencies?
Our ETF product space is largely a retail product space, and we've made it clear to the marketplace that there are a couple of issues with having an ETF that's based on a cryptocurrency. They go to price discovery, custody, and some other issues around volatility. We've let the industry know that those are issues that are of concern to us, and that we don't want to approve an ETF product with a cryptocurrency underlier until we can get comfortable with those issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Moran.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I'm sorry you both have to crane to you're next to the left, so hard to have a conversation with me. But I'm delighted to be back on the committee, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Let me first start by suggesting to you that if you have suggestions, I will probably not have the chance to see you in the Financial Services Appropriations Subcommittee before we take a look at FY19. Assuming that we're successful in the next few days on FY18 and budget caps, we'll have an opportunity to reconsider spending levels for FY18. You've made your request through the budgetary process and appearance before our subcommittee, but if there are priorities in which, as we go back to potentially increase funding in any levels of jurisdiction within FSGG, I would welcome your input as to what it is the highest priority. I heard the commentary earlier in regard to one of the questions, I think, to Senator Reid was the hiring freeze has created challenges. I don't know that we can overcome that, but if it is personnel in a particular way or other things, it'd be useful for me to know.
Thank you very much. And I didn't want to get ahead of the process, and our FY19 request reflects the sentiment I've expressed today.
I don't know that we'll see the FY19 request before we are taking a look at the potential increase in funding for FY18, depending on when the President's budget is released. But I would offer that. It doesn't need to be today if there's any suggestions you'd like to convey to me. The issue of, you may have answered this question just now with Senator Menendez, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Clayton, but you indicated why you were reluctant or unwilling at the moment to approve a ETF proposal, but doesn't ETFs, just as options do on its exchange, mitigate the concerns, reduce the volatility, and increase price discovery and reduce risk? So additional products, my question really is, don't additional products help alleviate some of the challenges we face, or is Bitcoin or cryptocurrency so unique that it's different than other items that are traded on exchanges?
Yeah, I think that the CFTC product has that effect. It's largely an institutional product, and you can take both sides of the market, and it gives people a chance. ETFs, you can take both sides of an ETF, but predominantly they're offered for a long investor, someone who wants exposure to the rise and fall of Bitcoin or other currencies, just as it would, and that's a different dynamic than a futures product. And we've long taken an investor protection view of approving those types of products, which is embodied in our liquidity, custody, and pricing rules. If we get comfortable with those rules, then we can move forward.
Very good. Let me raise a different topic than cryptocurrency. One of the that I've tried to pay attention to, and often in cooperation with the Senator from Mexico, Senator Udall, is trying to modernize our IT system, particularly within the federal government. And you indicated, Chairman Clayton, about the $500 million loss in a Japanese cryptocurrency in your written testimony. We've now passed, as part of the National Defense Authorization Bill, what's been labeled as Mgt Act. It's the Modernizing Government Technology. And what it does is create a fund for federal agencies to rid themselves of their legacy technologies and have access to dollars to replace that legacy. It encourages moving to the cloud, again, with the opportunities for us to have better technologies and safer technology systems to reduce our vulnerabilities. I just would encourage you. You have a lot at risk in the safety and security of the data that you hold, and I'd welcome your reassurances that I'm sure you will tell me that you're spending many millions of dollars and working diligently and you have the right personnel in place. But I would guess if we ask agencies of the federal government who have been hacked themselves and whose data has been released, they would have told us the same thing prior to that occurring to them. I'd be, first of all, delighted to be reassured that we will not be reading in tomorrow's paper or next month's papers that there's been a hack at CFTC or SEC. And then secondly, I just would offer you the opportunity to take a look at that legislation and see how it might be of benefit to your agencies, and to suggest any ideas that you would have for what Congress can do to further strengthen cybersecurity within your worlds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Senator Cortez Masto.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you. I apologize. I've had another committee hearing going on at the same time, but I appreciate your written comments and the conversation today. Is so important. As somebody who was the Attorney General of the State of Nevada and worked on consumer protection issues, obviously weeding out any type of fraud is important in this space as well. So let me, though, start with a couple of questions that I have. I understand that companies that originated outside the cryptocurrency space, like Kodak and Burger King, have recently jumped into the cryptocurrency space. However, some critics have warned that companies are using blockchain as an opportunistic venture to pump up stock prices without having a clear business plan. One company, Long Island Iced Tea, I understand, changed its name to Long Blockchain and watched its stock soar. So are you concerned that companies may be utilizing blockchain as a scheme to pump up their stock prices? And I'm going to just open it up to both of you.
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is I've put out a warning in this space. I've put out a warning to security lawyers as well, which is nobody should think it's okay to change your name to something that involves blockchain. When you have no real underlying blockchain business plan and try to sell securities based on the hype around blockchain.
And when you say you put out a warning, what does that mean specifically?
We put out publish it's on the SEC website. I made a speech regarding this, but this is an area of concern to us. Anytime there's something new that people seek to raise the value of their securities without the underlying goods being there,
right,
is problematic.
Thank you, Senator. So as you know, the jurisdiction of the CFTC and the SEC is slightly different in this regard, and so Chairman Clayton is rightfully concerned with initial coin offerings that are misrepresenting the affiliation, whether it be with Kodak or otherwise. We focus on fraud and manipulation broadly in instruments where there is wild claims for them. And I mentioned earlier a case we recently brought again on a Long Island firm called My Big Coin, which turned out to be My Big Con. There was nothing there. They were taking people's money and not investing in anything other than their own jewelry and houses and fancy cars and this kind of thing. We've been very aggressive in using our enforcement authority. We've recently brought 3 cases just last month alone. I've said there will be more, and we are looking into this and monitoring markets very carefully. We believe that our big task is bringing enforcement cases and letting people see that, as well as consumer education, which I've also
yeah, because it has a deterrent effect. You hope it does, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. It's also been reported that more than 3 million Bitcoins have been stolen. That is about 14% of the Bitcoins, or 1 in 7 Bitcoins stolen. And on January 26, CoinCheck, a Japanese currency exchange, was hacked. In minutes, 430 million was lost to hackers. This follows another theft of more than 500 million from another exchange, Mgt Act. If people put money into a stock or bond and it was stolen, they would have help. For example, the federal government's still trying to help investors recover the money stolen by Bernie Madoff. When virtual currencies are stolen by hackers, what can buyers do to get their money back, if anything?
This is a very good point, and it's one that we've emphasized in our investor alerts, that when you engage in investing online with an offshore entity, the chances that we can do anything practical to get your money back are very, very low.
In our futures market, for example, we have what we call system safeguards, requirements that futures exchanges have cyber protections in place, and they adopt best practices. For these underlying spot markets, which we don't regulate, we don't have the authority to require them to have cyber safeguards in place.
Right.
And a lot of these companies are young, they're startups, they're focused on putting what resources they have into developing their technology. And in the case of some of the cases you mentioned, what I understand was the cyber protections just weren't there. Now, I know that the JFSA has been aggressive on this. We've had some conversations with them. We've asked questions. What are they doing about it? But unfortunately, the theft has already happened.
Right.
And so this is a problem. These underlying exchanges, while we do have enforcement authority, we don't have the same regulatory authority that we have in the markets that we oversee. That's our day job, as one of your colleagues mentioned earlier. And so therefore, this is a gap.
Or the same kind of protection rules like custody.
Right.
It was gone.
Yeah, so it's the old axiom, buyer beware. I mean, so around this space, a lot of education is important. I would imagine from all of the federal agencies to buyers so they know until something else can be done, which I think we're still trying to figure that out. I notice my time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I had not planned on having a second round, but I have agreed to allow Senator Shelby and Senator Warren to each have one brief question. Senator Shelby.
I want to get in the area what's on a lot of people's minds today, and I know you don't control it, the stock market. You know, what goes up comes down, as we all know, and we don't know when and so forth. Is this perhaps more than an ordinary correction, or do you have a judgment on that at all? Chairman.
So your question is exactly the question I asked my staff and some of my colleagues across the federal government, because we should be asking those questions. By this morning, there was nothing to indicate that any of our systems didn't function as they were expected to function yesterday. This was the largest volume since November 2016. There was a significant price change, but it was not a price. Do you mind? We have two types of limits. We have single stock limits, and then we have market limits, the circuit breakers. Neither one of those were hit in any great detail. The single stock was 9. The circuit breakers didn't get hit. So as I sit here today, there's nothing that came out of this that concerns me from a functioning standpoint. But days like yesterday, our job is to look at them.
From a regulatory standpoint, are you saying that you don't see anything amiss?
Yes.
From a regulatory standpoint?
Yes.
You can't control what goes up and goes down. But what spooked the markets? Is it profit taking, perhaps? Is it a whiff of maybe inflation out there because people that watch the markets and participate in the markets see that the Fed is beginning to raise interest rates, dealing with price stability as they see it. And the Fed has information perhaps we don't have. The economy is hot, unemployment's low, so forth. There's a combination of all, or can we really say?
Well, I can't really say, because I there are a lot of opinions on those things. Our job is to look at the functioning,
Absolutely.
and look at the systemic risks.
That's right.
And I'm asking myself, is there anything that happened yesterday that gives me a different view of systemic risk than I had the day before? And so far, no. But that's a question I ask myself almost every day.
Of course, we all know that when the market is going up, people are elated. That's natural. Mm-hmm. When it's going down, some people profit, but not a lot of people are elated. Is that fair?
Fair.
Do you have any comment, Mr. Chairman?
I'm just smiling because just a recollection of a saying that a mentor of mine, who actually was my introduction into the financial markets, used to say. When I would ask him, he was an old hand in the markets, what drove the market up yesterday or down, he'd say, oh, it was up, oh, more people bought than sold. Oh, it was down, more people sold than bought. And we laughed, but what he said to me, he said, when you listen to the pundits and they say, well, the market was up yesterday because of this. Mm-hmm. That may have been why, or may have not been why, but the reporters or the pundit needed a reason, so they pick something out, and that becomes the reason for the day. And I don't mean to be facetious, but markets are very, very complex, very, very complex.
Very much.
And sometimes it's oversimplifying, and you hear it on the news, you hear it by people that are stock pickers, and they say, well, it was because of this. Well, I don't know how anybody really knows. Now, if there are fundamental moves, fundamental changes, that's where we have to do. And I share Chairman Clayton's view, is our job is to look at the structural underpinnings and see whether there's anything that's not functioning.
See if the fundamentals are sound.
See if the fundamentals are sound. So you won't be surprised to know that we had a late night last night and early morning this morning, checking in with our exchanges to make sure that things are in order, making sure that the margin levels were held, and make sure there was no significant margin breaches. And I can say that the system held. The system worked as it was designed to do. The margin levels worked as they were designed to work. And so the right systems, the right policies are in place. But the markets are always evolving, always organic, and that's why we need to stay very close to them.
The market always corrects. The question is this ordinary, maybe not an ordinary correction, but is it a correction? The market will correct itself, and we go from there. Is that fair?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to go back to virtual currency, and I want to ask about initial coin offering. ICOs. Some ICOs raise money for legitimate companies, but others we know are just Ponzi schemes. And many of the investors in ICOs are just everyday Americans, lured by aggressive marketing promising very high returns. In fact, it is now so bad that Facebook recently banned all ads for virtual currency related products and ICOs because there were so many, quote, deceptive and misleading advertising that targeted regular consumers. So I just want to ask a little bit of question around how we make ICOs safer. Chairman Clayton, the SEC evidently recognized the risk, so it announced last summer that it would consider certain coins to be securities under the Securities Act, meaning that they have to be registered with the Commission and comply with disclosure requirements. In 2017, companies raised more than $4 billion in ICOs. How many of those companies registered their ICO with the SEC?
Not one.
Not one. And as of today, how many companies have registered for upcoming ICOs?
Not one.
Not one. So we're still at zero. Can you just say a word about why that's so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think the gatekeepers that we rely on to assist us in making sure our securities laws are followed have done their job. We've made it clear what the law is. As I've said many times, there are thousands and thousands of private placements that go on every year in the U.S. We want them to go on. We want people to raise capital. But we want them to do it right.
Right.
What ICOs do is they take the disclosure light benefits of a private placement and then add to it the public general solicitation and retail investor promise of a secondary market without registering with us. And folks somehow got comfortable that this was new and it was okay. And it was not a security, it was just some other way to raise money. Well, I disagree with them.
So it is not new, it is new, but it is not okay and it is not another way to raise money.
Correct.
I am understanding you to say it is a violation of the law.
Yes.
You know, registration really matters. When companies don't register their tokens as securities, they can hide information, and the SEC does not have the information it needs to monitor this market.
I am perfectly happy for these people to do private placements, but do them right. Don't try and do it as a private placement, but get all the benefits of a public
and then
offering.
lever over into a public
and do all
offering.
the other shenanigans that are
well, good. So should I take today as you're sounding a warning bell for people? Maybe they better pay a little closer attention to the law, or the SEC is going to pay closer attention to them?
Yes, and it's not the first time, but I really appreciate the opportunity to do it today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. And thank you to our witnesses. We appreciate not only your testimony today, but the work that you are doing in this critical area. I would ask you to get back to me on recommendations as you refine your evaluation of our current financial legislative system and whether we need to provide further clarification from Congress. And with that, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.
I just realized my volume was off, guys. Sorry about that. Let us know down below in the comments what you feel you got out of this, whether you think that it was good, bad, you know, if some statements were a bit wrong. I noticed some statements were a little bit off, or they could have elaborated more on some things, and you saw some empty seats there. They could have had more people there that understood cryptocurrencies, that use them daily, but I guess this was, you know, lawyers and regulators, and it's just like we don't ask them to come to our party. I guess they didn't ask us to come to theirs. Okay, guys, hope you guys learned something and enjoyed these streams. Hit the bell for notifications for new updates and information, news that's going on that could affect the prices of cryptocurrencies, and other information about cryptocurrencies and what's going on with them from a day-to-day basis. We do daily videos about cryptocurrency and focus all our time and effort and energy into researching what's going on to give people a clearer picture. We're just starting our channel out. We haven't done any advertising, and so we're struggling to grow right now, but we wanted to get the quality of content up before we started to ask for views. So guys, if you enjoyed this, share it on any of your social media sites where people could use this information. And yeah, we'll have to see you guys on our next video, and have a great day.